University, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today for our first core session of 2020 called Global Mindset Masterclass. So as a global talent programme, we sit as part of the wider careers service at BU, and we're all about making you, we're all about skills development and making you stand out from the crowd really, and making you more employable via doing this programme. So today's focus is all around the concept of global mindset, and we're going to be introducing this concept to you and also to uncover the UN Sustainable Development Goals as well through our speakers that are with us today, who I'll introduce to you shortly. So just to start the session really, I just wanted to say this is, I'm super excited really to start off these virtual sessions. This is something new for us. But the aim for today is to keep things really interactive and for you to meet people virtually as well. So we will be having a part of this session as a breakout room so that you can start to meet with each other, because hopefully you will be coming along to future sessions as part of us as well. And so that you can start to uncover these concepts really together and work on challenges together as part of these sessions. So just to say that this is obviously our first session, but we do have some really exciting workshops coming up as part of our series this year. So this semester we do have some BU alumni speakers joining us as well from global companies such as Red Bull, TikTok, EY and Octopus Energy as well. So I hope you really do enjoy this session today, because we've got some really exciting upcoming sessions as part of this workshop series as well. So hopefully you've been able to access the pre-session materials as well that we've posted on our GTP portal for you. So these will hopefully have prepared you for today's session in terms of the content that we're going to be delivering, but also some questions to help you try to self-reflect a bit about what we'll be asking you to do as part of our exercise in today's session. So the fact that these sessions are virtual, they're only an hour in length today. We're going to try to keep to time as much as possible, but we've got a lot to pack in. So we will be available probably 15 minutes or so after the session if you do have any additional questions that you want to ask us as well. So yeah, also as part of the pre-session resources, there is an introductory video that I have produced for each of the badges that you do on the Global Talent Programme. And these will be more for the practical questions that you have about how to upload your evidence, for example, how to access your portal, and the learning outcomes, I suppose, for each of the badges, as well as the extracurricular side of things for the programme. So in those videos, I'll explain a bit about what type of activities you can get involved with on the programme from that side of things. So please do go back and have a look at that if you haven't watched it already. Because that might answer some of the questions that you have on a practical basis, and if not, you can always contact us after this session as well. Okay, so let's get on to the session itself. So just a few housekeeping rules that I just wanted to go through for everybody. So if you haven't already, please put your student ID in the chat function for us. Keep your cameras on and be interactive. Above all, if anything else, please do try to be interactive today. It really is a unique opportunity to engage with our speakers and each other, so please do. Please keep your microphones muted when you're not contributing to the discussion, just so we can hear everybody. Use the chat function throughout the session to provide answers to any questions raised. So yeah, please do feel free to continue to use the chat. And if you want to ask a question in person, you can do so at the end as well. And yes, just to note that this session will be recorded as well and shared on the GTP portal following this session with the PowerPoint slides as well. So if you don't want to appear in the recording, then you can always turn your camera off or just make us aware that you don't want your question to appear in the recording, and we can edit that out afterwards. Okay, so just moving on to our outline for today. So I'm delighted to welcome our speakers who are here with us today. So we have Neil Smith and Eleanor Wills from the BU Sustainability team. who will be starting the session off for us after my section. And they will be talking to you and introducing you to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and asking you to reflect on those in your own personal lives. Then we'll follow this with the group activity led by Neil and Eleanor. Then we have Dr. Milena Bobeva from the Business School, and who's also the Associate Dean for Global Engagement for Bournemouth Uni. So Milena is going to be talking to you all about what is global mindset, really uncovering that concept, and talking to you about a couple of the theories around that as well, which leading on to our self-reflection exercise that we ask you to do following the session. And I'll just end off the session with our next steps, with what you have to do following the session as well. Okay, so just briefly, just wanted to go over the learning outcomes for this particular session. So it's to introduce you to the concept of global mindset, to develop your global mindset through a broad understanding of key global economic, environmental, political and social themes, and to co-shape you with a set of key global talent attributes for the future workforce. So we want you to come away from the session with something tangible that you can put into practice, and that goes for all of our sessions really, for each of the badges. Okay, so our first task, we wanted to do something a bit fun and interactive. So we're going to ask you to log on to menti.com with the following code. So I hope you can see that. So if you can go onto your mobile devices or tablets, so hopefully if you've got them, or use a separate screen, you log on to menti.com, as you can see at the top of this slide with that code. And I'm just going to come out of this slide in a minute and share my internet browser so we can see your results. So just to get to know you a bit, just asking you, what faculty are you from? So I'm just going to come out of it for here and share my other screen. Hopefully this will work. Okay, perfect. Hopefully you can all see that. Okay. Business School and Science and Technology are winning at the moment. Okay. How many people have we got in the? I have to know how many, roughly.
We've got 66.
Okay, thank you. There's 51 of you that have answered so far. So that's me. Okay, it looks like the Business School's winning at the moment. Okay, that's good though, that there's a variety. There's people from everywhere, so that's good, all faculty. Okay, I think we've slowed down a bit there, so I think we'll go on to the next one. So there's another question for you next. Okay, so where are you from? So what country are you from? Okay, great. I love this part of the session because you really see what a cultural, diverse audience we have amongst our students. So, yeah, brilliant. I think who's the furthest? South Africa, Mongolia, Albania, Cyprus, Zimbabwe. Fantastic. Lots of people from England too. Great. UK. Somerset. Love that that's down as a country. Although I didn't specify country, so that's right. Brilliant. So that's showing, yeah, so you can see the purpose of us doing this is to show what a diverse student population you are, and actually we want you to be connecting with each other and learning about each other's cultures throughout this stage, in particular on the Global Citizen Badge. So thank you for doing that. That was just a bit of fun, just to get to know each other a little bit. Just going to come back on to my PowerPoint. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to Neil and Eleanor from the BU sustainability team, who I've already introduced briefly. So they're going to be talking to you today about the UN Sustainable Development Goals and a bit about actually what we do at BU in terms of sustainable projects and how you can get involved with them as well. So I'll hand over to Neil and Eleanor. Thank you. Ooh.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm going to take over on the screen sharing. Is that all right?
Yeah, I'm just going to come out.
Let's see what I can do. Thank you for that introduction, and it's lovely to be here and to see everyone from all over the world. Let me know if the technology works. Is that good? Cool. So I'm Eleanor. I'm the Sustainability Support Officer.
Hi there, I'm Neil Smith. I'm the Sustainability Manager, and I'm going to kick off the session and talk you through a few of the slides, and then I'm going to hand over to Eleanor, and then we'll end up in a workshop mode and opportunity for you to take part, and before we hand on to the next part. So the first part we want to talk about, as Eleanor said, we're part of the sustainability team at the university, and we've been, our remit is to embed this sustainability within all activities at the university. And when we talk about sustainability, what we're actually referring to is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So these goals were signed off back in 2016. They take us through to 2030. And one of the reasons we're really heartened by the university adopting them is because they show such a great depth. It's not just about environment, it's also about social aspects. And as you can see, it's the three pillars there of people, planet and prosperity. And one of the things we asked in the pre-read was that for you to consider which of the SDGs is most important to you and why. So we'd love you to share your thoughts with us in the chat function. So we can go on to the next slide. So, and what's also been really heartening for us is that we've also had acknowledgement about the way that we're operating at BU through the Times Higher Impact Rankings. So this was introduced 2 years ago, and it looks at global universities' progress against the goals. And we're in the top 12%. So we got in the top 100 universities, about 766 universities took part last year. And as you can see from some of those rankings, we're doing particularly well in areas across the piece, which is really heartening, both within the UK, but also the global picture. So we've got the next slide. And the other thing we like about the SDGs is that they're not standalone; they all interconnect. So if you look at one of the goals in isolation, you're missing a trick really. And we're now going to demonstrate just how connected the goals are, and is going to talk you through from the humble plastic bottle.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, so we're just going to do a little activity to show how all the SDGs are needed and that they're all acting together as one piece. So we're going to take, as Neil says, the simple plastic bottle and see in our SDG bingo which ones we can link to. So I'd love your thoughts in the chat. I can't actually see the chat, but I'll catch up with it later, and I'm sure Neil will enjoy it. So if we take a plastic bottle and think about what SDGs it links to, we might think about consumption and production, particularly in regards to when we finished with the bottle and the litter. This is from Bournemouth Pier earlier this year, and you might have seen it on the news. Bournemouth did not get our best press back then, back on form right now. But you may think about SDG 12 and the litter. You might think about where this goes, where this litter goes into our waters, into our terrestrial ecosystems, our marine ecosystems. And you can see that actually these four SDGs have naturally come together. But we can also take it further. If we don't think about where the bottle's going after we're using it, we can go back to where's it come from? Because the whole thing with sustainability is thinking not just about what's happening now, but what's coming after and what's coming before. So if now we look before, you think about plastic production, it uses a heck of a lot of energy, which impacts SDG 7. And it also releases tons and tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which has an impact on our climate. Again, this picture is building of sustainability with the 6 SDGs so far. But these are all environmental, and given our whole point was that you can't just have environment on its own, we can't miss the social factors. So if we think locally, about all the pollution coming out that people are breathing in, and people in the local community are going to be facing health, psychological impacts from this pollution. And this then leads into suddenly all this realm of social sustainability, because both locally nearby these plants and also globally in terms of climate change, it is the low income and minority ethnicity communities within nations and across the world that face the most impacts, even though it's typically the most privileged and the wealthiest people contributing to this. And so in order to then face this issue, we don't want to stagnate and just sit here and say, well, this is rather sad, isn't it? We want to look forward. And GTP is all about practicing the innovation and the cooperation needed in order to face any challenge. And this is all about piecing together the broader sustainability work, because that's only 2 parts of, in this case, a 17-part puzzle. And we're not trying to demonize plastic. That's not our goal here. Plastic is an amazing resource when used responsibly. That's a judgment for you to make in your own time. But what we are trying to get across is this ripple effect that you can have. You look at this one choice, this one action, this one resource, and realize that it can have an impact on so many other things. And when you see this in terms of positive choices you make, sustainable choices you can make, you realize that it ripples across so much. And this interconnectedness, in this case of the SDGs, which we just think is a great tool to see it, really allows us to understand our impact and empowers us to take that impact. Because, you know, in every choice we make, we have such an opportunity to create positive change. And that's all what this session is about, what the GTP is about, and hopefully what you guys can be inspired to do. So it's quite a lot to ask for, but we have got a tool, and that tool is sustainability. A lot of people see sustainability as a trend or a set of actions or being vegan. I mean, this is all true, but predominantly sustainability is a lens through which you see the world. So with that activity, it's not a good or bad to plastic. It's a how are we approaching our views on this, how are we approaching our actions to this, and we approach it with these lens of sustainability. And the reason there's 3 benefits to this. Firstly, as we said, it allows us to really see our full impact and see our full potential of what choices we can make. Secondly, it helps our knowledge and it helps our understanding. Before we act, we need to have that core of knowledge. And if we isolate an issue, if we isolate one of these goals and say that's the whole piece, we're missing all this knowledge, which means that we don't have the ability to act that we could do if we saw how interconnected it was. And finally, it allows us to act with impact and communicate with impact. No one is going to be inspired. No, everyone is not going to be inspired by one thing. So for me, environmentalist, not everyone loves trees as much as I do. Not everyone is going to be convinced to do something because they love the environment. But if I see, say, climate change through the lens of sustainability, I can see it as a health issue, a social justice opportunity, an economic opportunity. Not only does that allow me to influence better, it also allows me to collaborate so that together we can act better and act with more impact. And so this is kind of a basis for what you can do. Again, environmentally focused, but it works against all things. And we can put this into practice in our everyday life, because the news, events, even things happening within your life, this is a practice ground for us to try looking through this lens of sustainability. And this year, for better and for worse, we've had a lot of resources to practice, but really the world is your practice ground to have a go and to improve at this. So with this Venn diagram, it works for anything. You take 2 causes, 2 events, 2 occasions, and try and find the middle. And this is where the global mindset comes in, because this center looks different to everyone. We all have our own stories, our own viewpoint, our own mindset that defines this. But with everything you interlink, so here, environmental and social justice, there will be a center. And when you act from that, your impact will be so much stronger. So we're going to practice this in the breakout room in a little bit, so it's not just words. But I'm going to pass over to Neil in the meantime to give you a different model to help you along with it.
Thanks for that, Eleanor. So yes, the thing about a lot of the kind of global degradation that we often see in the press can be quite dispiriting and also quite disempowering. So this is a sphere of control or sphere of concern model that you may have come across that we use quite a lot. And the idea is to hopefully help people not spend their time in the sphere of concern, which is the outer ring, because that's where and people become anxious, but don't actually do anything because they feel, well, it's up to the governments, isn't it? Or it's big industry that needs to sort these problems out. Whereas in reality, we all have choices to make. So that's a sphere of control, or the sphere in the center. This is all lifestyle choices that we all make, whether that's what we decide to buy, what we decide to eat, how we decide to travel, all those clearly within our own gift. And then there's the influence, and that's who do we influence and what can we influence. So the who is, of course, your peers and your family, friends, but also you can use your voice. So in the ultimate is, of course, you have a vote, which you can also choose not to use. But so you can see that's where we want you to focus your efforts, but in terms of being able to have an impact rather than spending time being very anxious about things but not actually doing anything yourself about it because you just think it's too much to do. So yeah, that's a tool we hope that you can now focus on, and we're going to move into the workshop session. So in your groups, and you're going to be put into groups, I think it's about 5 or 6, as it says on the slide, share a topic cause that you really care about and sort of talk amongst yourselves about why you care about it, if you're taking action on it. And then the next part of it is really important. It's that connectivity between the causes that you talk about in your group, and show that interconnectivity that Eleanor has very eloquently expressed, and then start thinking about the models that we've given you, and think about the UN SDGs, which will then line up nicely with the rest of the global mindset workshop. So we're going to put you in those groups now. So I'm going to hand over to Alex.
Yeah, I'll just mention as well, Neil, thank you. You might want to just screenshot this slide or take a photo just so you've got it when you're in your breakout rooms, and just because when we put you in the room, so you won't be able to see it. So just take a minute or so, and then my colleague Alexandra is going to allocate you into the breakout rooms.
Hopefully, are you happy with me going, Jenna, or do you want to? Cool. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and found it interesting and shared some good enthusiasm for whatever cause took your fancy. We'd love to hear back from all of you, but an hour long is not enough for 3 days worth of discussion. But would anyone love to be brave enough to share what their group were talking about?
Happy to do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with my group, it was kind of, we all ended up saying very different things, but we ended up focusing the discussion more on how they were linked. So climate came up and how that was linked to sustainable production and like health and well-being, and also things like income. And then we were also looking at the strong institutions, peace and justice, and how like you need to have these institutions in place in order to affect everything from education to equal opportunities to things like climate change, because if you already got the system in place, it's a lot easier for then focus to be put on other things like that. But then we were also looking at things like quality education and how that also impacts, say, the health of, say, people in poorer countries. Like if they've got like they haven't got the institution for this education, and they don't know about things like climate change. Again, it all just kind of impacts on each other. So those were the main things we focused on.
Oh, that's fun.
I hope that was the right sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that's
fantastic. Climate change is a really good one, because it actually, although when you look at the number, SDG 13 is climate action, but it impacts on all the other 16 SDGs. It's a really good example you home in on, and it's also really important because it's a massive one about inequality. Because the people who have caused the least damage to our world are the ones who are going to reap the most damage from what's being caused. So there's a whole climate. That's where the social justice element comes into it. So that's a really strong theme. So yeah, great to hear that.
Nice you got in the peace and justice as well, because it sometimes feels like a different thing. It's kind of a structure rather than a topic in a sense. So that was really, great. Jenna, do we have time for one more, or should we go? Yeah, does anyone one more? Does anyone want to share?
I'd like to share.
Oh, I think I actually had Abby first.
No, that's okay.
Oh, this is why we need a longer session, isn't it? But yeah, Abby, after you.
Okay, so like the other group, we talked about a lot of different things. So deforestation, ocean pollution, sort of how the fast fashion industry is affecting people, and then the housing crisis, which I don't think is actually listed as one of them. But that was my one, because the idea of not being able to find a house after uni terrifies me, because things are just so expensive. We didn't really talk about how they all link to such, but more just what we can sort of do as students, sort of make our impact, or do what can we do on our own. We kind of just agreed that fast fashion maybe was the easiest one to do something about ourselves, somewhat, in that we can actively choose not to shop at places like Shein, for example, or Wish, any online shopping things where it's not the best companies to be looking at, basically, and finding instead companies that are actively trying to be, use recyclable materials, or are just being a bit more aware of how they're creating their products.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's another really good example, and again, it's the whole thing about, especially with fast fashion, is the inequalities. Because when you think about if you can cast your mind back to earlier in the summer, when there was all the investigation that was going on around Leicester and the sweatshops, and how and effectively a slave labour. I mean, that's in the UK, where you'd like to think we treat people with a bit more respect and a bit more, they're going to get a decent wage, but that's not the case. And then if you can cast your minds back a few more years, you might remember there was a horrible disaster in Bangladesh, where a lot of our clothing comes from, where there was one of the factories collapsed, killing lots of individuals. And it's fast fashion has a massive impact socially and environmentally. So yeah, another really good topic, and one really ripe for the sphere of concern and control, as you were saying. What is it you can actually do? And actually, you are very empowered in that respect.
Nyashik, would you like to share what you did? Because I don't want you to go without having shared when you were saying.
No, it's okay. It's okay if you guys don't have time,
No, go ahead. We'll work it out. Melinda's very creative on that front.
Okay, so our group basically talked about, we came together and we said global warming, waste reduction, and BLM, and the kind of social justice push for things like that. That's what we kind of came up with. And then we kind of figured that all of them kind of relate to things that better the way humans live in general. So how all of them can be interlinked is that we kind of figured that if we push for an awakening or the changing of people's minds to kind of realize how we can better our world, it will inevitably kind of open people's mindset to other issues that are mainly social justice issues, or things that relate to how we can better the world, open more kind of like things that can reduce our waste, maybe in Tesco's or in places where we can maybe give out some of our trash wasted batteries or things like that. So it's more about training people to have a more open mind to kind of like deal with complex situations and interlinking like that. So yeah,
beautifully put, because that's exactly it. It isn't about specific issues. It's all a betterment, isn't it? And what you were saying, Abigail, about the housing crisis not being on it, it's it's not these topics, is it? Because it all feeds in. So yeah, thank you all for sharing, and we'd love to hear from all of you. So if you can share in the chat what you guys were talking about, and then that was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for that. That was great. Thanks very much.
And these are just a couple of opportunities as we close up the sustainability part of 3 opportunities for you. So the first is a week-long climate conference that's happening virtually mid-November. It's international. They've got some fantastic speakers and it's completely free for students. So really recommend looking that up and taking part in whatever you can to get that connecting and seeing these issues linked together. BU wise, we run the Sustainability Challenge, which is like a Dragon's Den competition for you to help make BU more sustainable with your own business case for making it more environmentally friendly, inclusive, sustainable. So sign-ups are until Christmas, but do take a look and help us as a university. And finally, that's a survey for you to share what skills you're developing while you're at BU. You can win £500, but it helps us as a university guide on what we want to offer you, and nationally as well. So, and of course, keep in touch with us because we'd love to continue this conversation past the session. And over to Milena or Jenna. I'm not sure who's taking it over.
It's me. Thank you, Eleanor and Neil. That was fascinating, and thank you to the students who shared as well. It's always great to have such engaged students. So now we're going to move on swiftly to Milena. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Milena Bobeva. So as I said, Milena works in the business school at BU and she's the Associate Dean for Global Engagement. Won't spend too long, so you haven't got much time. So I'll pass directly over to Milena, who's going to talk to you about global mindsets.
Well, hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. If you see 2 of me on your screens, that's because I'm making sure, not in one screen, but that's because I'm making sure that my internet connection is reliable. So I have logged on twice on my mobile phone and on my computer. And this is one of the features of a global mindset, because you have to be adaptable, you have to be prepared for the unknown, you have to be very agile in what you're doing. But I guess that I'm starting with something that I should have asked you what you have done. And if you remember, you had some tasks to do for the pre-session activity. It's that video that Jenna is just going to show us a reminder of what one of the tasks was. So it is, you had to watch a video on 10 surprising ways to offend people in different countries. You had to watch another 3 minutes videos from the Dr. Mansour Javidan, who is one of the key leading experts in global mindset and one of the creators of the Global Mindset Inventory. So that was also an introduction to that inventory. And you had also to do a few exercises that are helping you recognize where you are, where you want to go, what are the gains that you're hoping to achieve from that year at university, not only through the classes that you attend, but also through these extracurricular activities like the Global Talent Program. So if you haven't done any of these tasks, please make the time and do them as a post-session activity. It is extremely important, even in your studies. You can use the World Economic Forum transformation maps as an idea of latest facts and examples from different countries. So we are talking today about global mindset, but what is really a mindset? If you consult any of the dictionaries, you will find out that the mindset is a person's way of thinking or their opinions. It is a mental attitude or disposition that predetermines our responses. If we are talking about a group of people sharing the same outlook of the world, we can talk about groupthink. So that's a mind spread that's spread across or shared across a group of people. And the term mindset was first used in 1930s. So you can imagine how many different definitions there could be. Most about defining one's attitude and responses. And we can have mindsets that we can talk about sunny mindset or the sunny perspective of life. That's the optimist mindset. We can talk about, as Elena mentioned, she is an environmentalist, so this is the environmentalist mindset. And you can have about, you can talk about business owners' mindset, leaders' mindset. So these are all ways into which we are defining our attitude to the world and the way we think about our tasks, our responsibilities, our behavior in general. So now we have a shared understanding of what is a mindset. How about having a very quick exercise on what is a global mindset? Again, Jenna is going to share with us a Mentimeter. You've already been on that Mentimeter, so you should be able to very quickly type in a word or a couple of words that you associate with global mindset.
It is actually a separate Menti code. So if you do log on and use the code on the screen, then you should be able to see it. So 2767111. It's almost rhymed. We can do a rap on 2767111. Okay, Jenna, do you want to share the Mentimeter? Oh, it is the Mentimeter, sorry.
Yeah, I think it is. Do you tell me if it's not?
Yes. Wow, that's a very interesting combination, cultural indifference. Rather than, yes, that's a good one. Acceptance of diversity, awareness of diversity as well, respect to different views of life, considerate as well. And it seems that quite a few people have entered acceptance and awareness and respect because these are the terms that stand out. We have 22 contributions. We're going to stop at about 40. I know that there are about 58 participants here. So if you continue adding to the Mentimeter, that's great. We will have the word cloud that is going to be the outcome of today's session. And we've done this exercise several times at every session that we're discussing the global mindset. And for us, it is great to compare how different people see, different groups have come up with a particular term that they associate with global mindset. What I'll do is I will ask you to continue adding your contributions. So just remember, today, most of the people talk about acceptance and awareness, but what we have done in the previous sessions is your colleagues have talked about adaptability, cultural awareness. Respect is something that came up with at your discussion as well. Resilience, and actually you had quite a few more common themes, which probably indicates that whilst you were in the chat rooms, you had this opportunity to share your views. And if we come up with one definition for global mindset, this is an open-minded, a person with a global mindset is somebody who is open-minded, they're aware of cross-cultural differences, they have a broad understanding of economic, societal, political, environmental issue. So if you think of your pestle analysis, for those of you studying business, they will immediately associate it with the political, environmental, societal, technological, economic, and legal issues. So that broader awareness of what is happening in the world and how different cultures prioritizing their views of life is what the global mindset is. Now, I did mention that in one of your exercises, pre-session exercises, you had to watch a video about the global mindset inventory developed by Dr. Javidan and Tiergarten. And if we are talking about, these are the 3 dimensions. If you see the outer circle of the inventory defines the 3 dimensions, starting with the intellectual capital. And this is about people being business savvy, knowing the global industry, knowing the global competitive business and marketing strategies, knowledge of suppliers across the world and logistics across the world. Then moving on to the cosmopolitan outlook, it's more about grasping complex concepts quickly, having problem-solving skills, strong analytical skills as well. So when we are asking you in class to think about, well, to discuss issues and take a view of a critical analyst, or try to critically synthesize and critically evaluate something, this is because, again, we're pushing you to taking in a more global perspective and show your cosmopolitan outlook. Then we have the, then we have the psychological capital over here, where we're talking about the passions for diversity and enjoying working with others, exploring our parts of the world, being adventurous, just interest in challenging situations and willingness to take risk, of course, measured risk and risk that you will be able to manage, willingness to test each other's ability, well, your own abilities, your own attitude, and preparedness to work in circumstances that you're not aware of, in unpredictable situations. You have the self-assurance as well, which is you considering how energetic, how self-confident you are, how comfortable you are with unknown situations. And then the 3rd dimension of the global mindset inventory, the global social capital, is starts with the intercultural empathy and your ability to work with people across different cultures, your ability to understand the thinking of these people and to relate to their positions. Moving on from empathy to impact is where you are experiencing the negotiation across different cultures and developing strong networks of people across other cultures, developing a reputation as a leader. So what we have seen today by the 3 people who volunteered to express the views of their teams on their breakout rooms was precisely this, the opportunity. They took the opportunity to do some interpersonal, express their interpersonal impact. Now, I'm trying to move to the next slide. Yes, I managed, that's great. Sometimes my computer is fairly slow. So we have identified through the global mindset inventory a few dimensions and their definitions, and you have been asked to develop this radar diagram of where you are, where you see yourself at this point of time and where you want to be at the end of this year, when you're talking how you want to develop yourself, as how you want to develop your global mindset. Just use these dimensions and chart yourself today and chart yourself where you want to see yourself at the end of the year. But most of all, we're talking about the 5 behaviors associated with global mindset: impact, problem solving, supporting others, and being mindful about the experience of others. I'm not going to talk about the transformation maps because they were part of the exercise. I'm quickly going to go through the dimensions, the 3 dimensions or 3 perspectives. Sorry, this time we're going to call them perspective of the global mindset. So we're taking another framework of looking at global mindset. This time it will be based on our position. So the academic perspective identifies the intellectual capital, the psychological capital, and the social capital. So this is what Javitan and Tiergarten were talking about. Then the next perspective is the research perspective, where we can talk about cultural global mindset, and strategic global mindset, and multidimensional global mindset. So the multidimensional, where people tend to drive their groups, their communities, to adopt a bigger, broader perspective and cope with that ambiguity, cope with the diversity. The business perspective, the industry perspective, is where we want to take you all at the end of this program, where you will be much more confident to communicate, to taking each opportunity to influence and share with others your cultural perspective, so that you can not only recognize others' cultural perspectives, but also help other people grow their global mindset. And the triangle of success is the triangle of knowledge, skills, and attributes. That triangle of success, just take down this term and search for triangle of success. You will find out something that will help you immensely in identifying what you can develop and how. So we can help you at university to develop your knowledge through classes and your skills, but the attitude is what really will make you successful in this world, make you a leader, confirm yourself as a leader that nurtures relationships with associates and friends. And I'm going to finish very quickly with the two perspectives of the mindset that Dr. Carol Burke has identified in her book on mindsets, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And I know really well that I will run out of time here, and Jenna has been very kind with me, letting me have a few more minutes on that. Just think about what mindset you're presenting. How would you evidence that you have a growth mindset, one that is happy with taking on challenges, exploring the unknown, making sure that you are comfortable with new situations, and you are helping others to develop their global mindset. So going back to what Eleanor and Neil were talking about, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, if you are a person with a growth mindset, you have to be thinking beyond just reading and understanding, but thinking about acting. And to act and to have an evidence that something has happened, you have to have your plan with your performance indicators, with your deadlines. You have to develop your SMART objectives. So your challenge today is, as part of your exercise, to start developing your action plan as to how you're going to move from discussion about what you're passionate about in terms of sustainable development and how you can contribute to this. And at this point, I'll pass on to Jenna so that she can remind you what exactly this exercise is about. Thank you very much for your opportunity to talk about.
Thank you. Sorry, sorry, you managed that very well in the time. Thank you very much, Milena. That was brilliant. Yeah, just following on from what Milena said about the exercise. So this is what you will see on your portal in terms of the self-reflection exercise that there is a link to under this activity. So yes, not only about the sustainable development goals that we've learnt about today and reflected on, but also it's a chance for you to think about other global mindset attributes that we will be actually touching on in next week's session as well, and how you might put them into practice in your daily lives and actually come up with a bit of an action plan for yourselves. So in my video, my introductory video to the Global Citizen Badge, I talk about the extracurricular activities that you can get involved with on this badge. So you might be almost reflecting on those activities and what skills you're developing from those as you are doing it. So it's something that you can take with you as part of your journey really throughout the university. So I'm briefly going to just round off the session, and then we'll take some time for questions if you are able to stay with us. Sorry that we've gone over time briefly. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Okay. So just to round off really, so thank you really for attending the session today. And what we require you to do for each of the core sessions that you attend is to upload evidence of yourself being at the session today via the portal. So if you go onto the GTP Progress tab and upload your ticket for today, and also write the reflection, which answers these following questions that you can see here under point 4, as well as the self-assessment form that I've just spoken about. Then we will check that evidence for you and approve your task for you for the core activity on the Global Citizen Badge. And this is the same format for every core session that you come along to. Just wanted to advertise as well. I hope you've enjoyed the session today. So we will be having our second Global Citizen Badge core session next week. And our speakers are Mark Rodolfo, who is a BU Principal Academic in the Business School. He will be joined by a BU alumni, Tom Cartmel, who is the Senior Director for Marketing and Communications at Red Bull Media House. So he will be talking to you all about his career journey from Bournemouth Uni to where he is now at Red Bull. He's also worked at some other big global brands such as Oakley. He will be discussing with you and sharing with you some of the global campaigns that he's been working on, where he's had to consider cultural differences for different markets, really, especially in Oakley when he was working there. So it's going to be a really interesting session, a really good opportunity to network with Tom. You can connect with him as well on LinkedIn following the session. He said that he's happy to do that. So please do book on for that via My Career Hub in the links on the portal. So we hope to see you next week with that as well. I just wanted to touch as well, we are holding some further sessions this November and December on digital skills. So if you haven't seen these already, these will form part of your disciplined researcher badge, and the first one's coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So these are really bite-sized interactive sessions that you can get involved with that are ran by local tech employers. They're all available again to book by My Career Hub, so please do check those out, and we'll be advertising them in a bit more detail shortly via social media. Just again, if you do find that you're a bit overwhelmed with all of this information, we do run drop-in sessions on a Wednesday afternoon. Myself and Alexandra are available to talk to you either by phone or in person at the moment via the Career Centre, which is based on Talbot campus outside the library. So please do speak to us if you've got any questions at all about the programme itself. Okay, so on that note, if there is anybody that has any questions and can stay to chat to us, we're more than welcome to, you're more than welcome to stay and we can answer those. If not, if you do need to go, then by all means, you can do so now, if you haven't already. So thank you so much for attending, and we hope to see you at a session soon. And thank you to all of our speakers as well today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.